Okay, so the first thing that I do when I use color, I always have 2 cups for a single color, at least 2 cups. 1 cup that has only water, the other cup it has a very small amount of liquid inside the cup, so that the ink does not dry out, because there are some inks that are thicker, there are some inks that are thinner. With any tattoo, I think, with any tattoo ink, it matters a lot that we have the ink the right consistency, so we are actually able to leave it inside the skin and it doesn't get boiled up and too hot and too dry inside the needle, the nozzle, because that is often the case with tattoos that don't get enough saturation on skin, and it often happens that the ink simply dries out and it can't get inside the skin. That's the problem. A little bit of water before you pour the ink. The next ink cup is going to be there for you to cool down the needle and cool down that space inside the nozzle, because that heats up because of the friction, especially if you are trying to go very fast on your ink packing. That always heats up. The same thing happens with lines, but many people actually use thinner inks for lines, so that kind of solves the problem. But if you like to use thick inks, an ink cup that has just water is very good to cool down and to clean up your nozzle. All those sponges and stuff like that, absolutely useless. It's either a small cup with water or a big cup with water, but I prefer to use the small ones because I clean my needles differently. I don't use one single cup for all the colors. I think that's not very tidy. 2 types of techniques that I'm going to be using, and 3 different types of needles. I will be using different voltage depending on what kind of needle I am using, and depending on the thickness of the ink. For example, my red and my yellow are quite thin, which allows them to flow inside the punctures easier, and my white, it's a lot thicker. I even think, I did not have a look at it under the microscope, but I think that the thickness of the ink is not only because of the substance that it's mixed with, but also because of the size of the pigment itself. If there's any of you who actually create ink yourself, or if maybe there's an ink brand watching this video, do leave your comments to explain why the ink fluidity is different, because I'm really curious about that. I would love to know. Okay, so here I'm using a 13 Magnum, a third liner, and a 14-9 Magnum. All of these needles are suitable for color. You will see the difference between them in terms of saturation and the way it heals with time. I try not to let my needle to become dry in the process of tattooing, which means that I always need to keep the ink. It has to be like liquid on the skin. It shouldn't dry up there, and I should always see a lot of a puddle of ink, so I know that whenever the needle punctures the skin, it also drags the ink together with the puncture, because that's how it happens. The puncture is made, and when the needle is leaving the skin, the ink gets sucked in. It's very important to know how it happens. Here you see me lowering the voltage down so that my thicker ink, my white ink, is actually able to go down the needle because it needs more time. It's a thicker ink. It needs more time to go down the needle, so it actually has the access to skin with the time that is given to it by the speed of the needle moving inside the nozzle. That's very important to understand also. About how I clean my needles. I don't use a separate cup to, like, with loads of water to kind of do the little brush wiggle thing inside the water and get the tip cleaned. No, the water gets colored really fast, so that means that's going to make all my other inks mixed with the different colors, and I don't want that. I want my inks to be as clean as it is possible, unless I'm going crazy with the ink mixing right on the spot, but that's normally not the case. Now we have a big Magnum, the 49 Magnum, for the ink packing, the color ink packing, which is probably the most unusual thing to see, I think. People are used to seeing blackout being done with larger needles, but for color packing is very unusual. Here I will explain how to make it work. You lower the voltage down so you can see what is happening on skin. So you see each time when your needle punctures the skin, you see a very separate puncture. That you need to analyze. You need to look at it. You need to understand where the needle has made a puncture, where it has left the ink inside, and what you did for that to happen. So I will leave that to you. It's something that you cannot understand through words only. It's something that you have to see for yourself on real skin and understand how it happens. So a few things that you should remember. It's always a little bit of water, a lot of ink, and then you carry on tattooing. Low voltage to understand and analyze the process, because that helps. Whenever you can, test things. Here is the result in about a month's time. It's healed, and as you can see for yourself. Thank you for watching. This was Tonya from Coltanica. Good luck.